third benefit lies in mortification and abasement, and the removal of exaltation, rejoicing, and exuberance, which comprise the beginning of rebellion and heedlessness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has to be said here that this is one of the principal reasons for the state of trivial exuberance and exaltation which one finds in the wealthy countries of the modern Western world. Everybody is permanently full. People think it's a catastrophe if they go for 3 or 4 hours without at least snacking. Grazing is the order of the day. The refrigerator door breaks, so often is it opened. Nobody is happy, even if they're at work or studying, unless there is a bucket-sized cup of Coke in front of them, from which they take a sip every few seconds. So appalling is the idea that we might, for even a microsecond, be deprived of the gratification of this particular human urging. I gather that Cadbury's Chocolate recently spent £800,000 developing a new kind of wrapping that diminishes the time it takes to open the bar of chocolate by 2 seconds. It was worth £800,000 to do that in order to reduce that quite shocking, blasphemous delay between desire and gratification. That's the nature of our civilization, and it would be funny but for the fact that a third of the world's population is hungry, not as a religious virtue, but because they live in settlements where they have to walk 2 or 3 hours before they can even get water, where a significant proportion of children die of malnutrition. And I wonder if they know what's going on in those jets that fly high above them, taking the bloated representatives of Western civilization as they tuck into their airline meals to some center of indulgence in the Seychelles or Goa or wherever. And this is a grave thing in Islam because the poor were a concern of the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. From the beginning of the Risala, one of the earliest themes, along with the fundamental themes of Tawheed and the negation of Shirk, is it'amut ta'am, feeding the poor. But the modern world pays no attention to that. The modern world is concerned with dieting. How would one explain to a starving peasant in Bangladesh or Chad what it means to diet? What would they think of us if they knew how many zillions are spent on new diets in the West? Or even more obscenely, on medications that enable you to eat as much as you like without getting fat. What does it mean in the third world for the elite to drink diet Pepsi? What on earth could that signify to those whose life is a constant worry about where the next morsel will come from for their families? This is the great iniquity of the modern world, and it makes a nonsense of all talk of progress, that there should be this widening gulf between rich and poor, between fat and thin. The gross national product of Tanzania, a substantially Muslim country, is £2.8 billion, which has to be shared between 30 million people. The annual income of Morgan Grenfell, the merchant bank, £2.2 billion, which is shared amongst 160 people. Such are the extreme, absurd injustices of the modern world, and they are becoming more extreme and more unjust and more anti-prophetic with every passing moment. This is the reality of the New World Order. The fat become still fatter, and the thin become still more desperate.